Think back for a moment to that kid who always sat at the back of the class. The one with mediocre grades who is now running a successful business or living an incredibly fulfilling life. Meanwhile, the former valedictorian with a flawless report card is struggling with unseen pressures in the corporate world. Have you ever wondered what actually creates that difference? When book smarts are no longer the only life jacket. The forgotten origins of IQ. For decades, our society has been obsessed with a single number, the IQ, or intelligence quotient. But there's a historical truth that rarely gets mentioned. When French psychologist Alfred Binet created the first IQ test in the early 20th century, his goal wasn't to categorize who was a genius and who was a failure. He simply wanted to identify children who were struggling in schools so they could get early support. However, over time, our education systems and society turned IQ into a golden ticket, a default metric to predict a person's worth and future. We forgot that, in reality, the human brain is far more complex than a logic puzzle. Many modern psychologists argue that IQ might only account for about 20% of our real-world success. So, where is the remaining 80% hiding? The answer lies in a mysterious realm of hidden quotients, invisible competencies that are never graded in school, but directly dictate how we survive, thrive, and find peace of mind. EQ. Reading the game. Emotional quotient. Have you ever seen a colleague with outstanding technical skills and an impressive resume who constantly clashes with everyone around them, ultimately losing every promotion opportunity simply because they can't work in a team? Or a brilliant manager who causes their subordinates to quit one by one due to sheer insensitivity? Those are classic examples of having a high IQ but a depleted EQ, emotional intelligence. Unlike solving a physics equation or writing a line of code, EQ is the ability to recognize and regulate your own emotions while delicately understanding the emotional ripples in others. According to renowned psychologist Daniel Goleman, EQ isn't just about being nice. It's a highly complex art of internal management. From a neuroscience perspective, people with high EQ rarely fall into the trap of an amygdala hijack. This is the moment when the amygdala, the brain's fear and anger processing center, suddenly triggers a false alarm, shutting down the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain, and urging us to say hurtful things we can't take back. A person with high EQ knows how to take a deep breath and create a pause between stimulus and response. This finesse helps them establish safe boundaries, build deep networks, and win people over. Something no supercomputer can ever be programmed to replace. But being a great communicator and mastering your emotions still isn't the master key. When life unexpectedly deals heavy blows, another type of capability must step into the light. AQ. The spring's resilience adversity quotient. Imagine you just lost a project you poured your heart and soul into for 6 months, or you're facing a sudden financial crisis. Some people will immediately sink into self-blame, doubt their abilities, and fall into a state of learned helplessness, believing there's nothing they can do to change the situation. But others use that exact failure as leverage to find the loopholes and build a new strategy. This ability to turn adversity into a stepping stone is AQ. Adversity quotient. This term was coined by expert Paul Stoltz to measure human psychological resilience in the face of storms. Stoltz divides people into 3 groups when facing a mountain of hardship. Quitters, campers, who stop halfway because they feel good enough, and climbers, those who keep pushing forward despite the scratches. The difference with climbers isn't that they don't feel pain. According to neuroplasticity research, people with high AQ seem able to rewire their neural pathways to view stress not as a survival threat, but as a challenge to be solved. Instead of seeing an obstacle as a concrete wall blocking every path, their brain flexibly analyzes it as a puzzle. In a rapidly changing world, the ability to get back up after a fall is often far more important than how fast you run at the starting line. The next point is even more fascinating, because it explains why some people are always ahead of their time. CQ. The flame of desire. Curiosity quotient. Do you ever find yourself scrolling online, only to get sucked into an article about why dreams are so weird, and end up spending the whole evening jumping from one page to another, from psychology to astronomy? If so, you likely possess an incredibly impressive curiosity quotient, CQ. If IQ is the processing capacity of the brain, then CQ is the relentless hunger to fill that capacity. According to studies by business psychology Professor Thomas Chamorro-Premuzic, individuals with high CQ tend to generate more creative solutions. The mechanism behind this is fascinating. When you ask why or what if, the brain activates its dopamine reward system. This hormone not only brings a sense of satisfaction, but acts as a glue that helps memory retain information better. Thanks to this, learning becomes a genuine joy rather than a forced chore, especially in today's era of artificial intelligence, when AI can do our high IQ tasks like calculating and analyzing massive datasets. The ability to ask the right questions, the curiosity to explore uncharted territories, becomes a priceless human superpower. Over time, curiosity creates a compound interest of knowledge, pushing a person much further than brilliant minds who settle too early for what they already know. And here is the part that surprises many. For all these elements to truly blend and create a massive impact, we need one final piece of the puzzle. SQ. The art of tribal survival, social quotient. Some people notice that there are individuals who aren't necessarily the smartest in the room, nor the most resilient, but they always know how to connect the right people at the right time and smoothly untangle any group conflict. This ability to read the room on a macro level is called SQ, social quotient. If EQ focuses heavily on understanding emotions on a one-to-one basis, SQ is more macroscopic. According to researcher Carl Albrecht, it's the ability to navigate complex social structures, recognizing roles, hidden power dynamics, and the unwritten rules within an organization or community. Through the lens of evolutionary psychology, the human brain didn't grow this large just to hunt or gather better. The social brain hypothesis by anthropologist Robin Dunbar suggests that our brains evolved primarily to process complex relationships within the tribe. Knowing who is allied with whom, who can be trusted, and how to cooperate for mutual benefit has been the key to survival, from prehistoric times to the modern corporate office. A person with high SQ is like a conductor. They don't need to play every instrument perfectly, but they know how to bring them all together to create a flawless symphony. Conclusion. Your own equation. If we compare the human mind to a computer, IQ might be the CPU that helps you process quickly. But for that machine to run smoothly in reality, you need EQ as the cooling system so it doesn't overheat, AQ as the shock absorbers for life's potholes, CQ as continuous software updates so you don't become obsolete, and SQ as the networking system that connects you to the rest of the world. Ultimately, grades or paper tests from your school years were never a life sentence dictating your future. Success or fulfillment is always a multivariable equation, where you have the absolute right to fill in your own constants. Which one do you feel is your natural strength? And which territory do you want to explore and upgrade the most in the near future? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. I would love to hear your perspectives. If you found the information in this video interesting, and it gave you a fresh perspective on yourself, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. It's a huge support and gives us the motivation to continue our journey together in decoding psychology and the human brain. Thank you for watching until the very end. See you next time.